Come see us on tour in Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, New York, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohoes, New York, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, and Toronto. Go to jimmydore.com for the cheapest tickets.
I'm Mary Maté with Americans comedian Kurt Metzger. And Donald Trump is having a hard time following through on his pledge to negotiate an end to the Ukraine proxy war. So let's check in on how both sides of the war are feeling about the state of affairs. Here is Russian President Vladimir Putin and what he has to say about his counterpart in Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky.
The current civil authorities in Ukraine have no legitimacy in accordance with the country's constitution. Ukraine has held no presidential election, while according to the Constitution, all key officials are to be appointed by the president, including regional government bodies, governors, and so on. So if the president is illegitimate, so are all the others. So under these circumstances of de facto illegitimacy, neo-Nazi formations receive additional...
Have an election. What a great point from Putin, the dictator, the authoritarian, who said, have an election, you're a big democracy. Have you ever heard of that, Aaron? Of been wartime, we're going to suspend all elections? Because people act like, wouldn't you do that? And I'm like, do you think that's what we do in America?
Well, he's also making the point that neo-Nazi groups do have outsized power inside Ukraine. And this is, you know, people think that when you say that it's a problem inside Ukraine, you're saying that everyone's a neo-Nazi. No, the problem is actually a small number of neo-Nazis have had a lot of power. The same people who threatened Zelensky with death if he made a peace deal with Russia and who play a major part in the military, like the Azov battalion. They're small in number, but they're large in force and intimidation. And that's why they do have influence.
A group of gang psychopaths, soccer hooligans controlled by intel freaks runs the country. That's their deep state. They don't have a lot of the vote. You know how you got to be such a naive liberal idiot to be like, well, they're only this much of the voters. They vote with guns and lighting you on fire and shit. They don't need to, they don't have to have, we arm them how we did with Al-Qaeda. The same difference. All the Muslims aren't Al-Qaeda, even though, you know, they now run Syria.
This clip might be glitchy, but let's see if we can hear any more of it. Yeah, it's glitchy. Okay, this clip is not working anymore. Anyway, we get the point from Putin that he doesn't see Zelensky as legitimate. And the problem inside Ukraine is that extremist groups, including neo-Nazis, have a lot of influence that makes Zelensky's rule that much more difficult. And it's true that they have threatened Zelensky's life. And as we heard from Boris Johnson recently, it was the nationalists, aka the neo-Nazis, the extremists, who stood in the way of a compromise that Zelensky previously reached with Vladimir Putin. Let's hear what Zelensky is saying. What is Zelensky's pitch to his people and to the world?
Deplane.
And this, by the way, for this clip, I used an AI translator, so it's a little clunky, but hopefully you can make
AI
it.
lies now. Maybe if it hallucinates, we won't get the right Zelensky.
It depends on his years. He'll die soon, that is a fact. And then it'll all be over. He could be finished before his fate historical legacy ends. And that is what he fears. I am younger than Putin, but only I have a better future.
So you hear that, Kurt? He's saying that Putin is old, he's going to die soon.
Yeah,
I'm younger,
he's
bet
gonna
on
be back
me.
playing piano with his dick and belly dancing in no time. Out in the South Seas when his where he hid all the money.
I don't know,
He's
especially
a Jewish beard for Nazis. That's what he is.
Especially given that Zelensky's life's been threatened by radical neo-Nazis inside of Ukraine. I do not think Zelensky's is the one who should be talking about Putin's life being in danger. I think he should look closer to home. And it's true that there are radicals who have threatened him and are very opposed to a compromise at peace deal. And it's been the US and the UK that have been propping up those radicals and making it very hard for Zelensky to reach a peace deal. That's why now he's saying, don't worry, Putin's going to die soon. So bet on me.
Putin holds elections, by the way. I just want to point that out. He holds elections. He doesn't go, no, we can't because the Zelensky's, the Nazis are too evil that we're fighting. We have to suspend all freedoms.
Yeah. Now, Zelensky, like Putin, both of them banned candidates that they don't like. So they shared that in common. But it's true that Putin has held an election more recently than Zelensky has. And Zelensky wants to avoid one because although he did have a spike recently after Trump kicked him out of the White House. Overall, though, there's a lot of people who are mad at him because they feel as if he's kept the war going on. And there's now footage widely circulating of his forces literally kidnapping men off the streets to go force them off to die.
I've seen so much of it since the start. And what is it now, a year and a half ago, when the average age of the front line is my age, 47. It's got to be older now. I found out later it was like older than that. So where are they even getting people to put in the meat grinder anymore? Were they putting women in it? But probably, right?
It's a great question. Certainly the people being sent off to die are older. You know, they're in their 40s and 50s. And that's why there's a lot of pressure on Ukraine still to lower its draft age to 18, which Zelensky, to his credit, has resisted. That's the one sort of Western dictate that or one of the very few Western dictates that he's managed to resist so far.
What's the draft age there? All ages?
It's 25 right now, and he's resisted U.S. pressure to make it lower. And look, here's the situation: you have Putin saying Zelensky's not legitimate. I can't make a deal with him, and Zelensky saying Putin's going to die anyway. So why bother with him? So we'll see if Donald Trump.
I bet Putin outlives most of your citizens of your country, idiot. You little cokehead.
Hey, if you watch my show, you already know the mainstream news media is not reliable. They never tell you the truth about Russiagate, Ukraine, COVID lockdowns, or anything. That's why I keep partnering with Ground News. Their app and website make it super easy to compare media coverage from all over the world in one place. Like on Trump shifting his stance on Ukraine, if you go to Ground News/JD, you'll see the full coverage on how he's cut them off from intelligence sharing. Even the UK, one of our closest allies, can't pass along any U.S. intel to Ukraine. Ground News gives me instant access to over 300 articles covering it worldwide. They even tell you if each reporting source has a political bias, how reliable the reporting is, and if they're independently owned or corporate controlled. They'll even show you where the news sources are based. It's a super helpful way to see what kind of biases lead to some thinking this is some catastrophic betrayal of Ukraine that weakens NATO, while others call it a strategic realignment that forces Europe to take responsibility for its own security. When it comes to anything Trump does, you know the media is going to twist it to whatever fits their agenda, and if you're not checking multiple sources, you're going to fall into their trap. So I can't recommend enough following the Ukraine war on Ground News and checking your blind spots to find these stories missing from the other side of the political spectrum. You won't get this kind of transparency from mainstream media. Ground News is a lot like this show, actually. They're doing what we're doing. So just go to Ground News/JD or just scan the QR code on the screen. We're offering my viewers 40% off the same plan I use, which gets you unlimited access to all their features. This knocks the price down to just $5 a month. Subscribing not only supports an independent news platform working to make the media more transparent, it also supports this show and everything we do here. Come see us on tour in Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, New York, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohoes, New York, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, and Toronto. Go to jimmydore.com for the cheapest tickets.